Indeed, I'll just quickly go on camera to say I'm not Eric, I'm Bev. So sorry about the confusion there, but
It's okay,
uh,
Beverly.
okay, awesome, awesome. Let me know when you can see my screen.
I can
See
see
my
your
screen?
screen. You are good to go.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me today. I'm really excited to be able to chat with you about MetaViewer and how really we can help you simplify the everyday tasks of paying your invoices, all while saving you time and thus money. MetaViewer really eliminates the paper chase and all the costs involved. Our AI captures, reads, and routes your invoices automatically, and we're able to cut that processing time by 70%. Sometimes that's the biggest bottleneck. Our AI data extraction tooling is estimated at 98% accuracy. So, what does that mean? That means you're going to see fewer bottlenecks, faster payments, bigger savings, and let's be honest, a happier finance team. We want to keep finance happy. Really, it's not just automation, it's transformation to help you simplify the everyday. All right, it all starts with capturing your invoice. There's really no reason to get fancy here. Your invoices come via email, right? Or regular mail, and you scan them. Either way, we're in a digital world. But in either case, we will essentially extract the pertinent information using our AI and bring it into the workflow. So here you'll be able to do four things. You'll verify the information extracted by AI. You'll code or reconcile that to your GL account, depending on if it's a PO invoice or a non-PO invoice. You'll get the necessary approvals in place, and then you'll confirm that information is accurate and export it to Dynamics. All right, it sounds simple, right? And that's because we designed it that way. Really, I think, we've been doing this for a fairly long time. And after years of listening to our customers, we took in all the best practices and we've tried to create this base solution, if you will, that can be configured to most standard business workflows, regardless of what industry you're in. So we're not trying to be a one size fits all. We understand there's unique business processes within each company, let alone within each industry. So we're not trying to have you follow a single process. Instead, we're trying to be accommodating to work with your business needs. Okay, so just to double down, oops. All right. So just to double down on kind of the behind the scenes, really what's happening here, I kind of mentioned it, but we're validating the file type of the document. So once we know, once it's come in via email or folder import, or you're manually scanning it in, we want to validate that file type. Then we're going to extract the pertinent information. At this point, we're making calls to your ERP, so BC in this case, to ensure that that information is indeed valid and exists in the PO or perhaps in your vendor card, wherever it is, as long as it exists in BC. And then as the AP user, you're ready to begin your regular process. All right. So I'm having a tough time changing my slides. Sorry about that. All right, so here are some of the highlights of how MetaViewer enhances your native Dynamics function. We're talking AI-powered data extraction, like I said, 98%. PO reconciliation with two-way and three-way matching. So that means matching your invoice to your PO, but also matching your invoice to your PO to your receipt. Then we've got comprehensive audit trails. So what's really great is that we're audit compliant. And we have the ability to also do multiple approval workflow options. We work with organizations where sometimes it's just three approvers, but then sometimes it's like 20. It's crazy. And I've seen it before. And so, we want to be accommodating to whatever complexities may arise. We also have data reporting, so Excel files that are readily available for you to export with basically, your data. Your data resides in MetaViewer. You should be able to extrapolate from that and make, informed business decisions as you see fit. But also, I mean, historically, I got to call this out. MetaViewer did start as a document management software. So 46 years ago, we, primarily served as a digital file cabinet, and we still very much can do that for you today. Whether it's invoices or supporting documents or HR documents or memos, whatever it is, we can serve to support that as well. All right. So ultimately, it boils down to the four steps that we talked about, right? Doing everything we can to simplify your everyday verification, code reconcile, approve, and then review and export to your BC ERP. All right. Now, enough of the slides. Let's get into the demo. Let me just share this again. All right, folks. Let me just give me a thumbs up if you can see. Okay, I presume you can see. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, cool. Want to be mindful of time, so I wanted to focus more on the demo here. So we're going to log in to MetaViewer. You'll see that I'm logging in as AP Clerk today. So for the purpose of this demo, we're going to be AP Clerk. You know, obviously a super user of MetaViewer. They're in this more than anyone else. And so we're presented with this homepage that has a list of permissions. Now, these permissions allow me to have oversight into different parts of the AP process. So each role, each user within the organization will have different permissions, and that's obviously at the discretion of your organization. But really quickly, I want to toggle over here to our user manager portal, if you will. Now, this would be managed by your admin person or your IT, but they basically have the ability to grant some of those permissions that we just looked at, whether it's enabling things or disabling things. You'll see a list of different roles here. Of course, they'll vary organization to organization. So let's say I'm in IT and I want the AP clerk to have, certain permissions. I'm not going to click anything here, but you can see that some of those permissions here can be edited. All right, so just something to keep in mind. All right, let's go back and let's get right into it. So as we talked about, after the file is validated, after the fields are extracted, after the calls are made to your ERP, well, it gets into what we call AP preparation. All right, so we've got a series of documents here, but one thing I would like to show you is a type of document that sometimes you may receive. Let's be honest, they're not always pretty. We'd like them to be, but they're not always pretty. And so you'll see here this document, it's on its side, there's chicken scratch written. I mean, the fonts are all over, there's stamps, there's upside down writing. And you're probably wondering, well, can MetaViewer read this? So go back in here and click on this first document. So that very same document, we're going to load it up here. And what you'll see is, again, just to re-emphasize the 98% accuracy, what we did was a couple of things. We cleaned up the document, so we flipped it up so that it's upright so that we can read it. And you'll notice here there are fields highlighted. The fields highlighted represent the fields that were extracted by our AI tooling. And so, we were able to parse through some of that messiness, even made it a little bit less blurry. And you'll see on the left side here, those fields were indeed picked up. So something to share. I'm hoping that most of your vendors don't send you invoices like this, but I thought it would be worthwhile at least sharing that we're able to do that. One other document here, I'm going to go into a little bit more of a messier document. Sometimes it's not always printed. Sometimes it's actually handwritten. 2025, right? But still, hey, some people like the traditional way. So you'll see this document is handwritten invoice, I should say. I mean, we've got the date handwritten. It looks like my family doctor's writing. And you're probably thinking, well, could MetaViewer pick this up? And just to show you, it does just that. So we got the invoice amount, $100. If I scroll up here, we've got the date and we've got the invoice number. So really, really neat. Just wanted to share that. Let's go back into our search. Now let's take a look at a non-PO invoice. All right. So a non-PO invoice obviously will need to be looked at a little bit more intimately, right? Because it does not exist in your ERP. And so again, we're going to take a look at this in our verification stage, and we're going to take a look at all the highlighted fields. You'll see the highlighted fields are here in our invoice as I scroll down, and you'll see that they indeed did populate on the left. Amazing. All looks good. I can hit code and reconcile. But before I do that, as the AP user, I say to myself, well, you know what? Sparrow Welding, these folks, they're always sending me these rental invoices. It's a pretty set cadence. Let's say it's monthly. And I want to automate this such that, I don't want to have to look at it every time. Well, what we can do is create automation rules. So I'm going to say, okay, look, every time in the future, so not for this document, that I get an invoice from Sparrow Welding, as long as it's between $1 and $100, I'm going to click submit. Now it'll ask me, okay, it's between $1 and $100. It's a non-PO invoice, and the vendor is Sparrow Welding. Well, okay. Do you want to automatically verify? Yes, I do. Well, do you want approvals? You can either say yes, you would like an approval, or no, you wouldn't. And you can also just have it go straight through to final review. So there's definitely more options here in terms of how you want to automate that, but just something to note that you can do it here for things like utility bills and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply. And so all this means is that for any future Sparrow Welding document, not this one, it will automatically follow those rules. All right, so let's go ahead and code and reconcile this document. We know that everything matches. And now you'll be presented to the coding screen. So in this screen here, or in this stage here, I should say, we're looking at the bottom right here to ensure there's no discrepancy between the total pay amount. So here you have your GL codes that will automatically populate based on what is set up in BC, your pay, your perch, your freight, your taxes. And fortunately for us, we have a difference of $0. So all looks good. One thing I want to call out on the right here is you'll see an audit trail. I talked about how we are audit compliant. And so every single activity that is done with this invoice really will be logged here. They cannot be deleted. You can certainly also tag people. So let's say, I'm unfamiliar with this document and I want to tag someone. I do have the ability to mention someone here, add a note, and then they will receive a notification in their email. So all looks good here. We're going to click coded. Next, we're going to be presented with our final stage, as I mentioned before, which is pardon me, it is not happening here, but it would have been the approval stage where we basically get to select the approvers that you want for that non-PO invoice. Now, we by default have up to 5 approvers that you can select, but like I mentioned, it gets complex. Everyone has different matrices. And so we have the ability to configure and customize the amount of approvers based on thresholds, et cetera, et cetera. All right, let's look at our next document here. It kind of just reloads to the next document. The feature I really want to highlight here is, oftentimes you'll tell your vendor, if you have multiple invoices, please send them separately. Do they listen? Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. And so you'll see here, this document is 4 pages, and you can see that here by it says 1 of 4 pages. And so I know that as I toggle through these documents, they are indeed 4 different invoices. Well, they need to be verified, coded, and sent for approval separately. And they can't be done all within this one, single stage. So what I can do is, if I hover down on the other dropdown, it gives me the option to split the document. Now, oftentimes you're using Adobe today or a third-party tooling to split your document, but we've kind of set that up for you here. So you'll see it expands the document into 4. Now, if you are, a proficient AP user and you know Vestiaire really well, and you know that the first 2 are actually one invoice, well, go ahead and sever it right there. And sever it right there because it's actually just 3 invoices. But if indeed you know that they are 4 separate invoices, well, let's go ahead and let's sever it there. And I'm going to click split PDF. Amazing. So now it's going to split the document and it's going to reship 4 individual documents back into AP preparation. Now let's go back into search results. I know we have 2 minutes here, so I want to show you a PO invoice. Theoretically, a PO invoice should be much more seamless. All the information exists in BC. All the information is being pulled from BC. And so, really not much for you to do here. So again, looking at those highlighted fields, ensuring that all of these fields here are captured correctly as per the panel on the left. Amazing, all captured well. We're gonna hit code and reconcile. In this case, we're not really coding. We're just gonna be able to reconcile that this is indeed the PO number. And again, looking at the total difference over here, ensuring that everything matches. All looks good here, so we're gonna hit reconcile. Once we hit reconcile, this will automatically ship it directly to your ERP where you'll see that invoice updated, ready to be posted and ready to be paid. Amazing. I know that I have probably 1 minute here, but really one last thing I wanted to show you is that you do have the ability to manually upload documents. Sorry, so not every time do things come in via email import or folder import. So you do have the ability to upload documents here. And once you create it here, it will go straight into your into AP preparation. that it concludes my presentation. I know it's fairly quick, but yeah, if ever you want to learn more, my name is Bev D'Souza, and yeah, I would be happy to chat.
Thank you so much.